It's Destination Newry. It's the morning programme. I'm Rowan Hand. It's my joy to be your host through until an hour and a half from now. From 7:30 to 10:30 every morning, Monday to Friday, we're here with you. And delighted to welcome a very, very old friend and colleague, Benny McKay.
Rowan, great to be here again.
We grow old magnificently,
We
don't
do,
we?
yeah.
Which is great.
Beards are green.
The beards are there, and we walk the slower walk, and
the gait gets a bit slower.
It does, and but we accommodate everything.
You're right.
We're still, taking 21-yard frees in our mind's eye.
We do.
And not a bit of bother.
Bother.
Goodness, look at him laughing over there at that. That Damien Rafferty fella is terrible. But the music and the song continues with you, Benny.
Continues. We maybe at a slower pace, and rightly so at a slower pace. But
Yes.
still, we have great sessions up, and I go to the first and last in Warren Point on Monday night.
Yes.
And it was great actually last Monday night. There was a crowd came in from one of the tall ships that's in the harbour.
Yes, indeed.
And we got a lot of nautical songs.
I'd say
from it. It was great.
I tell you, it's just amazing. That boat is still in there.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Noticed it yesterday.
The writers are going well. The Newry Writers Group.
Newry Writers Group are really going fantastic. And you remember you launched the book for us, and I tell you what has happened. A lot of the communities out around in the area have invited us out to do a reading.
Wow.
Atticall, the Kilkeel Nautilus Centre, Rostrevor, pensioners, they have a Neaton Day,
Yes.
Ballyholland, the Mullabon, across Midland U3A, and they've all invited, and it's a great outlet for us too.
Yeah, of course.
The people, I noticed every one of them that we've had, when they started off, they were very tentative. But now they're professionals.
Oh, and they're loving it.
They're loving it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
all I have to do is, if I'm sort of emceeing it, just sort of wink the eye, and they know they're on next, and I don't have to cue. They have their story ready,
good.
and away they go.
Sounds
and
good.
the sound is great.
Benny, you have what I know will sound great, because it's another poem from the pen of Benny McKay. And explain to the folk first what the poem is seeking to achieve.
Well, I have, in my travels, and I travel a fair wee bit of a son in Boston, and I travel a lot over Spain, France and that, but a very loving admiration for the Turkish people. I go regular to Turkey, and I look at my own town, and I look at the way maybe our own people, our council have handled it, and it brings me, at times I regret, like the dual carriageway they put through the centre of the town, Rowan, tore the heart. Now, whatever history we had, a lot of it disappeared under the wrecking ball. And when I look back now and I realise people had no vision of what they were doing, because they would not have done that. They would have come up with some other, better idea to service the town than just to take.
And you've seen how it's been done in these other places, like Quincy Quay in Boston.
Yeah. The Quincy market there, and what was it? It was an old market where actually cattle came in, and it was a very old, but a very decorative building. And it was the council in Boston at the time had it down for demolition. And some wonderful architect looked at it and said, no, that's a beautiful building. Don't. We can really make something out of this. And they proceeded to that building is now been totally refurbished, top to bottom, and along with Faneuil Hall, which is just above it, they have now got an international cuisine. There's about at least 25 different restaurants inside that place that give you a flavour of all the cuisines in the world. And you can go in, you can sit down. It's not a shirt and tie one. It's a beautiful little seats and alcoves in here. Very intimate place, and you can sample. You can walk along and you can pick up whatever where you want.
This Boston, you make it very, very attractive. I haven't been to Boston yet.
You've missed a beautiful city. To me, it really epitomizes, maybe not what the Americans are, but whatever history America has. It's in Boston. You have the Boston Tea Party, Paul Revere, the famous light. The British are coming by land or by sea. And the old church which he did it is still there. There's the Patriots Trail, which is so easy to do, even for a person of my mature years.
Maturity, there's wisdom there.
And legs.
Yeah.
You can get round it. You follow the red line, and it takes you around all the old graveyards, Quincy Adams, and all the different other places. But getting back to the Quincy Market, they refurbished that, and because they refurbished it, all the big businesses knew they were on a winner, so they all came in around it, and they built a complex around this place. And it is absolutely teeming. I was down with my grandchildren there about 3 weeks ago.
American grandchildren.
American grandchildren.
The great grandchildren of the man who helped me play football in the marshes.
Yeah.
Your father.
Just a wee story when I was out in Boston. This is you're not going to believe this. My son in Newry, when I was out in Boston, I have a lad in Belfast, Glen. The good news had come back. I was a granda again.
Wow.
And what the good news, we have another Tommy McKay.
Another Tommy in Boston.
In
Belfast. Tommy McKay, your dad.
He named him Thomas. So we have another.
Such a lovely. This man's father was just a beautiful human being, a gentle, quiet human being, lovely man. And let's not forget the wonderful strength that he got from your mother behind him.
Yeah.
You know,
he was a wonderful person. He as you know, he had a great for the youth of the town, and particularly for Gaelic games and Irish culture. He would have walked from here to Cork and back to
absolutely.
And I always remember a story of Eamon Traynor, who was one of our great footballers out in the Meadow. Eamon told me one day, he says, it was pouring out of the heavens, and my dad arrived at the door. There's no mobile phones, no ordinary phones. And he knocked at the door, and the trainers took him in and gave him a cup of tea and took the coat off him and sat him down. He was there to tell Eamon that the match had been cancelled the following day. He didn't want him coming
because of the weather.
And yet,
Eamon would have had to walk from the meadow down to the marshes.
That's right. And my dad did it on a bike. And just to tell him, don't go down, Eamon, and that was the sort of,
Let me take you back to Boston, where your kith and kin are as well. Do tell me that Boston is very different to, say, Dallas. I found Dallas sterile, awful, just avenues of concrete. I didn't like Dallas at all.
Boston's a lovely city, and if I could say to you, it remembers you maybe somewhat of Dublin. It's not a big city. It's well laid out. It has its different quarters. It has the Italian quarter, Irish quarters, and various Hispanic quarters, Chinese quarters. But it's beautifully laid out. And it has that old British, it had the Boston Common, which in the heart of it, it's an absolutely magnificent park, based on the park in Dublin.
Yes.
That's what they actually based it on.
My goodness.
And the one not just off Grafton Street there.
Yes.
And
it's the St. Stephen's Green.
St. Stephen's Green.
Yeah.
It's based on, actually they say that was what was used for it.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful, it has that, there's museums in it, wonderful museums. Right down to the harbour. They kept the old harbour, and I walked along it. Now, it's the first time I've seen, my son took me the other day, and he took me along some of the parts of the old harbour. It was absolutely beautiful, where we dandered, where I sat down and had a beer and watched the seagulls, and the planes coming in at Logan Airport, and there was a great joy. And it has, as I said, tons of history. Bunker Hill, where one of the vital battles of their new republic that was fought, and I remember actually one day going up to Bunker Hill, up through the streets of Charlestown, which you might remember that song, The Boston Burglar. He was taken to Charlestown.
To Charlestown.
But I walked up through it, and I met this lady coming, and I wasn't sure of my way, and I asked her the route up to the top of Bunker Hill. I want to see the monument. And she says, no, you're on the right route. And I discovered she was from the Aran Islands.
My goodness.
Spoke perfect Irish and Gaelic. And there she was, living in Boston, reminiscing about...
Benny, you make the world a very, very small place as you talk. And it seems to me that you wear the cloak of America very, very easily. Very, very easily indeed.
But you see all these different races and Poles and they're all there, all the different peoples, and they seem to fit in.
Yes.
And I hear people even in Newry sitting in the sauna, and there was a young lad giving off about some of the foreign people in the town. I said, well, listen, you know, I think you maybe have the wrong thing there. You know, there's good people and bad people, and we have them in our own native people. So
well, you lead me to our programme sort of mantra this morning off the back of that foolish man McConnell in Belfast. No, no, no to racism. No, that's where we are.
I was very much embarrassed when I seen that. I hung my head in shame that should happen. Yeah.
Well, let's lift your gaze beyond the horizon to the new sun shining and rising. Right. Your latest poem.
Yeah, well, as I said, I watched how in Boston there, that place was transferred. The day I went to it, there was a jazz band playing up at the top. There was, when I came further on down, there was a set of acrobats, second to none. The children really loved it. The crowds were enjoying themselves. Here was a place being milked. They knew what to provide. If we could give you sort of an equivalent in Newry, take Newry Market and George's Market in Belfast.
Ah, yeah.
And look what they've done to George's Market in Belfast.
Look what we have not done
and
to
look
Newry
what we have
Market.
not done to Newry Market.
The poem, sir.
Right. This is reminiscent of all the places. Now, all you out there will probably, well, you need to be a certain age level.
Well, that's the challenge. We'll ask them to tick the boxes here and see many of the place names and the characters you hear in Benny's poem that you recognise.
It's called The Wrecking Ball, or The Death of a Town Centre. St. Coleman's, the coal bucket, I did enjoy, where I danced and played as a growing boy. Kipe and Coulard, the high call cap, waltzed and jive, reel and pop. An oratorial splendour where great men stand, from the bucket steps they held command. The wrecking ball swings once more, removes the steps and the second floor. Annie Dowdle's a place of rest, porter and whiskey at its best. Cross-legged tailor in windows sat, gazing benignly on Persian mat. Mingy Keenan's through clouds of smoke, as callow youth sucks his joint. Smoke-infested rooms bear witness to lazy student and one last drag, with beautiful glances at chancy mag. Through the open window the students pour as McKay comes pounding at the door. I know you're in there, you boys of sin. I'll tell your parents where you have been. The wrecking ball comes flashing by. Mingy's back wall reveals the sky. The mist in Camla Mountain sucks down, blots out the damage to our town by men with mangled thoughts. The butter market, where men and boys stand in despair, sold to the highest bidder at the hiring fair, to tardy farmers with touching hands, crushing spirits with their vile demands. And late at night, when the wind is high, I hear the shouts and ghostly cry of men and boys long since passed on. The darkness recedes in the murky night as the lamplighter's pole ignites the light. McKevitt's pub with sawdust floor, as weary docker spends his score. Travelling salesman with too much beer searches for lodgings at McAteer's. Like a scene from Dickens, the children play through squalid entries that reek decay. The wrecking ball finds sustenance here as the heart of Newry disappears. Sparky's forge crashes to the ground, and silence the smithy's anvil no longer sounds. The smell of heated shoes and horses' hooves, the bellows roar as showering sparks remove a craft that goes back to the birth of man. Convery's shoe shop, with the aroma of tallow and burning grease, and the constant tap of the cobbler's hammer disturbs the peace. Buffing shoes on spinning wheel, across the road Tommy Price reveals his magic tricycle with child appeal. Cones and sliders are the order of the day, whilst ghostly children no longer play, as the wrecking ball must have its say. Peggy's leg no longer can be found as we disturb the monks in sacred ground. Bagnall's castle was then installed, now revealed to all through a bakery wall. Henry died at Q's red hand, bringing death and grief on this promised land. The brother's house stands stark and bare, a reminder of those educated there. The church bell rings, the mist tries to thin, through the murk and gloom the coach comes in. A change of horses, some ale, some gin, as the weary traveller finds peace within. King William rested and Schomberg dined on the way to James and the River Boyne. Lord Haw-Haw's voice and Lindsay Hill, through counted steps, his voice did chill. Now a dual carriageway is what we've got. The wrecking ball has cleared the lot. Our learned friends have let us down and removed the heart of Newry town.
Very beautiful, Benny. I just sense I'm waiting for the musical accompaniment. This has got to be put to music.
Oh, aye, there'll be a wee...
It'll
come, yeah.
Benny, bless you. Thank you very, very much indeed. You've enriched my morning here in Destination Newry. And there's many's the tear on cheeks across the world as you were reading that, I tell you.
Just trying to jig a few memories.
Oh,
you've done it there. And if you look, those places are gone, and
absolutely,
that could have been a great benefit to the time.
Anyway, onward and upward. Thank you very much indeed, Benny. God bless you. Indeed.